Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tat Padam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidyat Ravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome our new person, Susan. So those chants, the first one is 3 verses from a hymn called the Hymn to the Guru. And I started out of respect for my teacher. And the second one is an invocation that our study may be done well together. So a little bit of review. Hang on, there's a box on the screen. Can I ask you to look at it if it's something that means? Isn't there a white box in the middle?
It says, yeah, there you've been signed out because your account is signed in from another device. So I don't think we're on right now.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
you're fine now. You're on.
Yeah,
Okay,
you guys are
sorry.
fine. Jim, you're saying everything clearly.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Great. So, last week, we were talking about the root, for you, we were talking about this particular text takes us through various exercises in contemplation, ways of looking at the world in a completely different way. And the goal of it all is what we call self-realization. And this is good review for all of us. So right now in the state of ignorance, I think I'm my body, or I think I'm my body plus the personality. And I may think that the spiritual life is about fixing that sense of being a person, or I'm going to make it better. I'm going to get close to God or become something else. And what our author Vidyaranya is saying is actually no. My problem is I think I'm something other than I am. Now, it's not just thoughts. It's a deep, almost like hypnotism. But the root of the problem is what we call avidya, spiritual ignorance. The main thing we have to know, the antidote to ignorance is not action. If I'm thinking of a song lyric, how many jumping jacks do you have to do to know what the song lyric is? Ask me what song lyric I'm thinking of.
That song is very good, I think.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. So what did he do? He investigated. So the antidote to ignorance is what we call Atma Vichara, inquiry into the nature of myself, my real self. Is this making sense, Susan? Yes, no?
I think so.
Okay. Just flow with it for now. Most of these people have done a bit of studies, so these are not new ideas to them. So last week, the main idea that we looked at is, well, who is it who knows everything that's going on in the waking state? So for example, I see the table. I see the chair. Well, it's the same me that sees the table and sees the chair. The objects are different, but me, I'm the same. I hear the sound of the traffic. All that changes. We can go through all the five senses. So the knower of all phenomena is one, although what I know differs. And then we went through the various states of the mind. So I am the knower of everything in the waking state. When I have a dream, I have a dream body, I see a dream world, I have dream thoughts and feelings. But I am the knower of everything in the dream state. And I even am the knower of everything, well, one thing, ignorance, in the deep sleep state. I wake up in the morning and I go, oh, I must have slept so soundly I can't remember a thing. So there's a knower of these three mind states. All right, so now we're going on to the 6th verse. Can you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Sabodho Vishayat Bhinno Nabodhat Swapta Bodhavat Evam Sthanatraye Yeka Samvitat Baddirantare. This consciousness in the deep sleep state is indeed distinct from the object, here ignorance, but not from itself, as is the consciousness in the state of dream. Thus, in all the three states, the consciousness being homogeneous is the same. It is so in other days too. The perceiver is the same. Okay, that's it. The perceiver is the same in all the three states. That's the summary.
Yeah, yes. So again, summarizing up on the deep sleep state, you are not unconscious in deep sleep. You are seeing pure ignorance. It is like this. If you can see, you can look around the room and you see all the objects. If you close your eyes, you are not blind. You are seeing the back of your eyelids, which obscures your ability to see what's in the room. If the room were pitch dark and I had blackout curtains, you would not be blind, you would be seeing darkness. If I lit a candle, you'd immediately see it. If you were blind and I lit a candle, you could not see it. So, did anybody wake up in the middle of the night to go pee? I did. If I were unconscious, how would I know I woke up? If you slept well, in memory in the morning, you remember. Now, If this is hard to understand, don't worry about it. Nobody ever got enlightened in the state of deep sleep. So just put that on the shelf. The idea here is whatever state the mind is in, waking, dream, or deep sleep, the self, which is pure awareness, is the knower of the all. Never touched by. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse, number 7.
Masa dayuga kalpeshu katagabhyeshva nekadha nodeti nastametyeka samvidesha swayam prabha. Through the many months, years, ages, and world cycles, past and future, consciousness is the same. It neither rises nor sets, unlike the sun. It is self-revealing. The objects of perception change and differ with time, but not their consciousness or samvit, which is one, abiding and self-revealing. Self-revelation is not an act which would require an agent and an object, but a fact. The mere existence of the self is revelation. A consciousness
I
does
think that's
not.
commentary, isn't it? That's all in the shloka.
No, that's commentary.
Yeah.
Should I read it, or would you?
Daniel, can you see it? Do you have your copy with you?
I see it, yes.
Will you just read the shloka
Sure.
in English?
Through the many months, years, ages, and world cycles, past and future, consciousness is the same. It neither rises nor sets, unlike the sun. It is self-revealing.
And like the sun or unlike the sun?
Unlike the sun.
So the sun, in the ancients thought the sun would set. They
Right.
didn't have a heliocentric idea of the world. So the point here is, when I was a child, I had a little body, and I had the home I lived in as a child, and there was the environment I lived in, and I had my thoughts and feelings, but I was the knower of it. Then I grew up, I went through adolescence, the body changed. Maybe my family moved to a different home. I went to a different school. I had different friends. Certainly different thoughts and feelings. But even though the body, the environment, and the thoughts and feelings changed, I was there as the knower of them. Now we're adults. The body has changed again. How many times have you moved? Those of us who live in urban environments, we move rather frequently. Different friends, different relationships, different thoughts and feelings. But something has remained the same. I, the knower of the changes in the body, the knower of the various environments. That feeling of I never change. And the implication here is, if we spend the time to quieten the mind, slow it down a bit, really introvert the attentive faculty. Look, see if we can just figure out, who am I? What is my essential nature? What is there is nothing but pure witnessing consciousness. And it never changes. Here's a great secret. Self-realization is quite rare. It is not difficult to realize the self because it's far away. Because you have to be in some wackadoodle mind state. The self is difficult to realize because of its profound ordinariness. It's so constant and always there that I miss it. So we know the world largely through the process of compare and contrast. I know the table is not a chair. I know the chair is not a lamp. I know the lamp is not a water glass. I can compare and contrast. But you've never had an experience of not self. You've always been you. But there's another way of knowing. I call it the method of distillation. I have 3 glasses of water. One has red food coloring, one has blue food coloring, one has yellow food coloring. And I want to know what is pure water like. I just remove everything that is not water. Oh, water is pure and clear. So what we're working on is removing from our attention everything that is not self. If it has a beginning and an end, if it occurs in time and space, if it's a form, a quality, a color, most importantly, if it can be known as objective information, that's not the self. It's tricky because you will never see yourself as an object. You won't be in meditation and go, oh, I saw the self go by. No. It is like trying to see your eyes. No person has ever seen their eyes. I've never seen my eyes, therefore I don't see, eyes don't exist. Nonsense. It is like trying to taste your tongue. Your tongue is that by which everything else is tasted. Or a more modern image, it is like trying to shine a flashlight on its batteries. Can't do it. So you are the knower of all things, but never known as an object. Yet you are not unknown. Are you not you? Next verse.
यमात्मा परानन्दः परप्रेमास्पदं यतः मा न भुवं हि भूयास मा न भुवं हि भूय समिति prematmani kshyate. This consciousness, which is ourself. Oh, Daniel, go ahead.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you read the English.
Okay. This consciousness, which is ourself, is of the nature of supreme bliss, where it is the object of greatest love and love for the self is seen in every man who wishes. May I never cease to be. May I exist forever.
So some people think that that's just our instinct. I was talking with a friend this morning, and she's a couple of years older than I. I'm going to be 75 soon. And she's 77. And, you know, we have far more yesterdays than tomorrows. And you have the feeling, you know, so many of our peers have gotten terminal illnesses, have died. People are afraid of death. It's amazing how powerful the life principle is in the body. But the other thing that Vidyaranya, that's our author, is talking about, everything I do is for love of the self. So essentially what my mind does all the time is it seeks happiness. It seeks the good by its greatest understanding of it and avoids misery. Because I love me, that will make me happy. That brings me joy. Even when I'm generous and selfless, I do it for the good of me. I'm really honest. Oh, I think this is virtuous. If I'm totally altruistic, it'll make me happier. I'll be spiritually more evolved. Whatever way you frame it in your mind, it always comes down, I do it for the sake, for the good of self. We're built this way. Now, Vidyaranya will eventually take this to a very deep understanding in his explanation of what is happiness. Oh, you've seen me do this 1,000 times. So basically, what we like varies from person to person. That I have decided, oh, that's pretty constant. So I decide what it is. We'll use the prayer stone to be whatever it is that you like. First thing that happens is Priya. I determine what's dear to me. Then I endeavor to get proximate to it. I buy it, I create it, I earn it, I build it, etc. I date it. Yeah. It's called moda, when I get proximate to my object of desire. And desire, object of desire become one. Pramoda. The point of pleasure. Most of us think it's the object that brought me the pleasure. Yoga says the very act of craving, of thirsting, of longing is my suffering. Same thing Buddha taught. What's the first noble truth in Buddhism?
Suffering is pervasive.
Dukkha Satya, the truth of suffering. Most people live sucks. Noble truth number 2, Samudaya Satya. Samudaya means arising or accumulation. Usually when that's broken down in the Buddhist traditions, it's desire, it's craving, it's thirsting, it's longing, or the flip side, aversion, attachment. All are different ways in which suffering arises. What does it feel like to want something you don't have? Or the flip side, I want to get rid of something I don't like. Or afraid I'm going to lose what I already have. Yoga says, can you find any other kind of suffering? Yoga says, when desire and object of desire become one, this pramoda, actually, for a moment, my mind has been freed from the craving. I really did it because when the mind is freed from craving, it comes home. In the end, it's parama prema, the supreme devotion, the love of my own self-nature. We get terms in the tradition like atmaramana, reveling in the self. Ramananda rasa, one of my favorites. The juice, the bliss of the infinite. Those of you who may have come from a Christian tradition, were you raised in a Christian tradition, Susan?
Buddhist.
You were raised Buddhist. Okay, this is very absolutely the same parallel notion, person Buddhism. But there's a wonderful statue, I think Bernini did it, called The Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. The pictorial representation of someone abiding in their own self-nature. So this is the deeper teaching that Vidyānanda is pointing at. It's not just that we're selfish. It's much deeper. But in the end, it's my own nature, freed from the tyranny of craving. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
तत्प्रेमात्मार्थमन्यत्र नैव मन्यार्थमात्मनः अतस्तत्परमं तेन परमानन्दतात्मनः.
Others are loved for the sake of the self, but the self is loved for none other. Therefore, love for the self is the highest. Hence, the self is of the nature of the highest bliss.
Yes. So I love my significant other. Why? Because when I'm with that person, they make me happy. I love money. When I have lots of money, I'm happy. I love beautiful flowers. I love nature. When I'm out in nature, I feel happy. So I love people, places, things in the world because of what they do to my mind. So we have what we call mediated bliss. Desire and object of desire become one. Oh, yeah. I used a medium to get a momentary taste of my own self nature. And the problem is, in the state of spiritual ignorance, I develop an attachment to that, meaning at a future time, I want to repeat it. Yoga says, let go. Vairagya, that desire to let go of all attachment. Then the mind comes home easily, and we have a non-mediated experience of self-nature. This is what yoga teaches. It's also what Buddhism teaches. A slightly different language. So there's an assignment here. There's a practice. Again, rooted in Sakshi Bhava, the attitude of the witness. Watch your mind. As you're going through the day and you get disturbed, annoyed, unhappy, rather than thinking, is it the people, places, things, and conditions, or am I stuck wanting again? And if you're like me, you'll find that it's incredibly repetitive. And when you start to see what's going on, it's really boring. So, mature detachment is a prerequisite for real peace. But it does not come out of a moral idea. That's called suppression. It doesn't work. It comes from inside. Then watch what happens when you satisfy a desire. You mean ice cream, good music, sex. They do the same thing to my mind? Yes. I get confused because I'm focused on the sensations. Now, how happy I get will vary depending on how badly I wanted it and how thoroughly it satisfied the desire. But own your ananda. The world isn't bad. The world isn't evil. The world is shunyata. It's just neutral. It's void. I attribute the joy-giving or misery-producing qualities to it. All that goes on. And the more I'm stuck in the tyranny of craving, the more unhappy I am. Any thoughts on this?
I see it quite well, but I still don't practice it perfectly. What can I say?
That's quite all right.
Yes.
It's quite all right. Unfortunately, we can't flip craving off like a light switch. But if you stay conscious, Justin,
That's what I'm trying to do.
and if you find yourself still wanting, craving, identify what the klesha, the affliction is. Oh, I want to feel important. Oh, I want to be the center of attention. Oh, I want to be right. You know, these are things you and I have talked about. You know, and you'll find that they're very repetitive and
They
very
are.
boring. And the thing is, start to practice a little bit at a time. Let it go. Let it go. We were in Gita in Sunday night. Krishna uses, or Arjuna uses the example, oh my God, this is like trying to empty the ocean with a blade of kusa grass, emptying it out a drop at a time. It's impossible. And Krishna says, it is difficult, but it is possible. How do I do it? When I become friends with what my suffering is and what causes it, and I'm not deluded. Ego will always say, I'm unhappy because I'm not getting what I want. Yoga says, I'm unhappy because I'm stuck wanting. Great. Yoga says, play whack-a-mole with the world. Gimme, 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 gimme. Yoga says, try letting go of it. Try letting go. But it's a practice. It's a practice of yas. All right, next verse.
Ittham sanchit parananda atma yuktya tatha vidham param brahma tayoshchaikyam shrutyante shupadeshyate. Go ahead, Dan.
In this way, it is established by reasoning that the individual self is of the nature of existence, consciousness, and bliss. Similar is the supreme Brahman. The identity of the two is taught in the Upanishads.
So he sums up the discussion in this part. Sat Chit Ananda. You are. You have existence. Sat. Chit. Your essential nature is awareness itself. Ananda. Your essential nature is bliss absolute. Meaning it is the fountainhead, it is the source of all peace, all happiness. And the statement here, he says, is that's not only your essential nature, but that's the essential nature of Brahman, the ground of being of the whole creation. And then he says, the Upanishads, the scriptures say, they are the same thing. So the Upanishadic Mahavakya, the great utterance that he's referring to, is Tat Tvam Asi. Tat means that, Tvam means you. Asi means is verb to be. You are that. You are the infinite. You are God. Wait a minute. I can't even keep my desk clean. How can I be God? I'm not powerful. I'm having a hard time paying my bills. How can I be God? Doesn't make sense. Here, the tradition says we have to use what's called lakshanam, which is the implied meaning. When we say you, we don't mean your personality. We don't mean your body. We mean the self. Witnessing consciousness. When we say God, we don't mean the phenomenal creation. We don't mean the total mind. We don't mean the total vasana. We mean the consciousness, which is the ground of being of the whole creation. That consciousness, the witnessing consciousness in you, they are the same thing. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Abhanena param prema bhanena vishaye spruha ato bhane pyabhataso paramanandatatmanah.
If the supreme bliss of the self is not known, there cannot be the highest love for it, but it is there. If it is known, there cannot be attraction for worldly objects. That too is there. So we say, this blissful nature of the self, though revealed, is not strictly speaking revealed.
Yes. So here is the great problem. The scriptures say the nature of the self, which is eternal, nityam, unchanging, is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. All right. I know I exist. I get that I'm consciousness, but I'm not happy all the time. How can the self be Ananda? Sometimes I'm happy. Does that mean the self changes? What's going on? So what we need to do is let go of the romantic notions that we have about Ananda. We read stories about Sri Ramakrishna, and people would just say the word God, and you go off into samadhi. Oh, I want that. Is that Ananda? We go visit a great Mahatma, a great guru. I had a dear friend who had the darshan of Ananda Mahima back in 1974, probably India's greatest living saint. She said, you just got within 20 feet of her. The mind is gone. Is that Ananda? If it has a beginning and an end, if it's subject to change, that isn't it. So what is Ananda? We start by defining it as no sorrow reaches there. Physical pain gets as far as my body. Emotional upset gets as far as my mind. Doubt and confusion gets as far as my intellect, but none of it touches Well, why do we call it infinite bliss? Because of what we've been talking about, a nuanced understanding of it. It is the fountainhead of all joy. It is the source of all peace and happiness. But what is the agitated mind? It's the awareness of, what it is, agitation. If we let go of the agitation, the underlying natural state of the mind is revealed. The scriptures will use the images of like the waves in the ocean. You see the waves storming in the ocean. They're not other than the ocean. The storm is past. Where do the waves go? In the end, they're no other. So my mind seeks happiness. That's its nature. That's what it's doing. Its problem is it doesn't know where happiness is. Because of spiritual ignorance, I think it's in the phenomenal world. Actually, every time I satisfy a desire, I get a taste to myself. I just don't realize it. So what practice reveals to us? By direct experience is the blissful nature of myself. Now, we experience the bliss of the self ordinarily in two ways. We've talked about when we satisfy a desire. What's the other state that everybody experiences the bliss of the self? Anybody remember? Deep sleep. Yes. Everybody loves a deep sleep. But no object causes the bliss of deep sleep. Why is sleep so wonderful? It is the absence of the agitated mind. And then there's a state called Vasanananda, which is that state in the morning. I call it snooze alarm bliss. Alarm goes off, snooze alarm. Just lying in bed, punch the pillow, and oh, just another 10 minutes. So there's just enough mind there to enjoy. You're so close to deep sleep. And then, oh gosh, I've got that big project at work and I've got to get that going. Oh, and I had a fight with so-and-so. I've got to clean that up. And oh, and the roof is leaking and I got to deal with that. And what am I going to do about my 401k? Does this sound familiar? Yes. And what happens to that Vasanananda? Gone. So that proves to us the mind is essential for suffering. The mind is not necessary. Now, does this mean I should shoot heroin? No. Does that mean I should take Ambien all day long, deep sleep? No. It isn't the perception of the world, nor even the flow of thought that's problematic. It's the jonesing, it's the craving, it's the control issues, it's trying to protect self. It's all that craziness. So when we talk about manonasha, the destruction of the mind, it's not a frontal lobotomy. It means that personal sense of self, positing a goal that will make me happy, and struggling is gone. So this is why meditation is absolutely essential on the spiritual path. What happens in meditation? You sit. And in the beginning, it goes my mind. Then maybe I see lights or hear voices or stuff like that. I may even think I'm meditating when I take craving into meditation. I'm going to do visualizations. I'm going to do affirmations. That's still trying to get something. Just sit. And conscious just vomits up stuff. And we just don't do something. We sit there in time. How much time? Can't tell you. It varies from person to person. The mind starts to settle down. And then we start to find a peace that has no external cause. It's not an object. It's not a person. It's the absence of struggle. So this is the value. Meditation then gives us the direct experience of the bliss of our own self-nature, the peace, content. It's always there. I just didn't know it. I thought the happiness was out there because of my spiritual ignorance. Any thoughts on this? Susan, this is exactly the same teaching that's laid out in the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. Truth of suffering, the cause of the suffering is the craving. Freedom from the craving is the freedom from suffering. Can I be permanently free from craving? Yes. How? The Noble Eightfold Path. That's the way he set up exactly the same thing. Just done a little bit different language. It's the same process. All right, next verse.
Adhyetra vargamadhyastha putradyayana shabdavat bhanepya bhanam bhanasya pratibandhena yujyate.
A father may distinguish the voice of his son chanting the Vedas in chorus with a number of pupils, but may fail to note its peculiarities due to an obstruction, viz. Its having been mingled with other voices. Similar is the case with bliss. Because of obstruction, it is proper to say that the bliss is known yet unknown.
Yes. So a father may recognize his son's voice when he's chanting. But you've got to imagine that they're in a gurukula, a school, where they're learning Vedic chanting. And there's 20 boys and girls. But he's using the example of 20 boys. And they're all chanting the Vedic chants together. And the father cannot distinguish which voice is his son's voice. Son's voice is there, but he cannot recognize it because it's obscured by the other voices. So the bliss of myself is always there, always available. But I don't see it because of the distraction of my attachments to people, places, things, and conditions. It covers it, as it were. It obscures it. It's there. Where can I find real peace? Where can I find real happiness? What you're looking for, you're looking with. You don't need to get peace, get happiness, get meaning. You need to get rid of stupidity. That's what needs to happen. What's my stupidity? I think it's out there. Let go. So if the dad is hearing his 20 boys chanting, and one by one, 19, 18, 17, the boys get up and leave, 16, and his boy's the last. In the end, only one boy chanting, oh, there's my son. He's doing a good job. He didn't attain, acquire, discover his son. What did he do? He got rid of the obfuscating, covering other voices. That's what we need to do. Let go of the things that hide the bliss of my own self-nature from me. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse, one more.
Pratibandhosti bhatiti vyavahararha vastuni tannirasya viruddhasya tasyotpadanam
Our experience of the articles of everyday use is that they exist, they reveal. Now, an obstruction is that which stultifies this experience of existence and revelation and produces the counter experience that they are not existing, they are not revealing.
So here he's doing the opposite idea. So let's see if I can use a worldly example. If I've misplaced my keys, something is in the way of my knowledge of where my keys are. I have ignorance. Did I leave them in a coat? Did I leave them in a pair of pants? Did I set them on the counter someplace? What did I do with my keys? The things of the world are obscuring. So what do? Well, let me retrace my steps. I had to have them when I came to the house because I had to unlock the door. Then what did I do? I really needed to go to the bathroom. What did I do? Oh, I took off my coat. That's where I put them. They're over there on the dining room table. Then I find them. See? So what we need to do is remove that which obfuscates, which occludes, which covers my self-nature. It's always there. So last week, we had the assignment, watch your mind, see if you are ever anything other than witnessing consciousness. So the assignment for this week, watch your mind. Notice when you're disturbed. Hear me say this all the time. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the attachment. I'm the one with the expectation. I'm the one with the false identification. Now listen carefully. This does not mean I'm wrong and they're right. The world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong. But if I'm upset, I'm the one with what we call the klesha, the affliction. Well, what about righteous indignation? If I get cheated, don't I have a right to be angry? Do whatever you want. But does getting angry get you your stuff back? It's not a solution. The ego always says, resolve the struggle of ego. More, better, different, more, better, different. I'll be happy when. It'll be better if. Yoga says, drop the struggle. Drop the struggler. So watch what it feels like when you are wanting. See that it's because I'm caught in the tyranny of craving. Watch what happens when you satisfy a desire. Notice that for a moment, the craving for that particular something. Happiness is not in the person, place, thing, or condition. It is the mind freed from the tyranny of craving. Now, most of us run around in the world, not necessarily, oh, I really want that. It's not that intense. It's just low-level discontent. You know, I'm fidgety, I'm annoyed. People bug me. You know what I mean? It's just low level. But it's still the same. And again, this is the great power of meditation. As we begin to get the direct experience that I can have peace that is independent. Then do what you will. Any thoughts before we end? What verse are we on for next week? 14. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.